The ship Horizon moved silently through the dark space at the edge of the solar system. Commander Tay stood tall, his eyes fixed on the small blue dot growing larger on the main screen. After a journey across vast distances, they had finally arrived. 500,000 years, said Science Officer Hyun softly. He stood beside Tay, checking data on his tablet. That's how long it's been since our ancestors visited this world. I remember the reports, Tay said, nodding. Primitive creatures, barely using stone tools. Fascinating but simple. The Horizon was the most advanced exploration vessel of the Stellar Survey Corps. Tay and his crew of 12 had spent 3 years traveling to reach this distant corner of the galaxy. Their mission was simple: follow up on worlds marked for potential by their ancestors. Most likely they're extinct by now, Tay continued. Or perhaps still hunting with spears if they were lucky. Engineer June worked at her console nearby, her fingers moving rapidly across the controls. She was the youngest crew member, brilliant and eager. Suddenly, her hands froze. She frowned and repeated her scan. That's odd, she said, her voice uncertain. What is it? Tay asked, moving to her station. I'm detecting artificial objects in orbit around the planet. Thousands of them. Tay looked over her shoulder at the readings. Could be asteroid fragments or debris. No, June said firmly. These are manufactured. And there's more. She adjusted the sensors. I'm detecting massive energy signatures across the entire planet's surface. The bridge fell silent. Navigator Sue abandoned her station to join them, her eyes wide with disbelief. That's impossible, Hyun whispered. No species develops this quickly. The evolutionary timeline doesn't allow for it. Tay ordered the ship to move closer, still maintaining their cloaking field. As they approached, the evidence became undeniable. The primitive world they had dismissed centuries ago had transformed completely. Artificial satellites orbited the planet. Structures were visible on its moon. They detected signs of activity on the nearby red planet as well. I'm picking up communications, announced Communications Officer Day. Billions of signals. Multiple languages. They have a global network. Show me, Tay ordered. The main screen filled with images collected from the planet's broadcasts. Cities that stretched to the horizon. Flying vehicles. Vast networks of roads. Humans in protective suits walking on the surface of their moon. According to our records, they should have just discovered basic agriculture by now, Hyun said, checking historical data. This level of development should have taken millions of years, not thousands. The crew watched in stunned silence as more information poured in. These humans had split into nations, then formed global alliances. They had survived plagues, wars, climate disasters. Each time emerging stronger, more united, more advanced. Look at that, June pointed to new readings. They're harnessing fusion energy. Their computational systems are approaching quantum efficiency. As they continued their observation from a safe distance, they witnessed something that confirmed their growing fears. A large comet was approaching the inner system on a collision course with the red planet. The crew prepared to observe a natural disaster, but instead watched as the humans calmly deployed a fleet of ships. Using technology that the visitors barely understood, they redirected the massive celestial body with apparent ease. We need to report this immediately, Security Officer Kwan said urgently. This changes everything we understand about evolutionary development. Tay agreed. Prepare a quantum relay message for Central Command. Priority Alpha. But before they could send their message, the ship's sensors detected something approaching fast. What is that? Tay demanded. Unknown object, Navigator Sue reported, her voice tight with tension. Moving at impossible speeds. It's heading directly for us. That's not possible, Engineer June whispered. Our cloaking technology is perfect. Nothing could detect us at this distance. The object slowed as it approached, revealing itself to be a small, sleek craft unlike anything they had encountered before. Without warning or command, their communications system activated. The bridge speakers came to life with a voice speaking in perfect galactic standard.
Greetings, visitors. Welcome back to Earth. We've been expecting your return for quite some time.
The crew of the Horizon looked at each other in shock. Commander Tay slowly sat down in his chair, his mind racing. The primitive apes they had observed 500,000 years ago hadn't just survived, they had thrived beyond all prediction and possibility. And somehow, impossibly, they had been waiting for this moment. "Keep us concealed in the Kuiper Belt," Commander Tay ordered, his voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge.
"Activate all stealth protocols."
The crew moved quickly, guiding the Horizon to hide among the distant icy bodies at the edge of the solar system.
From this safe distance, they could observe Earth without being detected, or at least, that was the plan. "How did they find us?"
Science Officer Hyun asked, still shaken by the mysterious message they had received. "Unknown," Security Officer Kwan replied, reviewing their defensive systems. "Our technology should be undetectable to any civilization, especially one this young." For 3 days, they observed and collected data. Communications Specialist Day rarely left her station, working tirelessly to process the flood of signals coming from Earth. She sorted through music, conversations, news broadcasts, and data transfers, billions of simultaneous communications from a planet humming with activity. "Their history is fascinating," Day reported during the evening briefing. "They've had a rapid, chaotic development. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times, with nuclear weapons, climate change, biological warfare, but survived each crisis."
She displayed a timeline showing human technological development.
The curve of advancement was not gradual but exponential, shooting upward in the past few centuries.
"This isn't normal," Engineer Jun said, studying the data.
"No species advances this quickly without outside help."
"Could another spacefaring race have interfered?" Navigator Sue suggested.
"No evidence of that," Day replied. "They appear to have done this entirely on their own." The screen showed humans living on their moon and Mars, mining asteroids, and deploying vast energy collection arrays around their sun.
Most concerning was their casual display of technology that rivaled or even exceeded the visitors' capabilities.
The crew watched in stunned silence as humans detected a small comet on a collision course with their Mars colony. Rather than panicking, they calmly deployed a fleet of unmanned ships that surrounded the massive ice ball, generating a field that gently altered its trajectory. "The energy requirements for that maneuver are enormous," June whispered.
"We couldn't do that so efficiently."
Commander Tay made his decision.
"We need more information. Prepare a stealth probe. It will approach Earth orbit, collect detailed data, and return."
The small probe detached from the Horizon, its advanced cloaking technology making it virtually undetectable. It accelerated toward Earth, carrying the most sophisticated sensors they had.
6 hours later, the probe suddenly went silent. "What happened?" Tay demanded.
"Unknown, Commander," Kwan replied, frantically checking systems. "It simply disappeared from our monitors." Before they could discuss further, the main communications screen activated. A human face appeared, calm, middle-aged, with dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "Greetings again," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Director Han of Earth's Interstellar Relations Division.
We've intercepted your probe and would like to return it to you, along with an invitation." The image shifted to show their probe, intact but surrounded by sleek Earth vessels with designs unlike anything they had seen in their database. "How did you detect it?" June asked before she could stop herself. Director Han smiled slightly. "Your cloaking technology uses phase-shifted quantum fields. We developed similar technology 2 centuries ago and quickly learned its limitations." The crew exchanged alarmed glances. Director Han continued, "We would like to invite a delegation from your ship to meet with us at our neutral station at the Earth-Moon Lagrange point. We promise your safety and free passage." "Why should we trust you?" Commander Tay asked. "Because we've known about your species for centuries," Han replied simply. "We found your observation markers when we first reached our moon. If we wished you harm, we could have taken action long before now." The transmission ended, leaving the coordinates for the meeting floating on the screen.
It's a trap, Security Officer Quan insisted.
Perhaps, Tay acknowledged.
But they could have attacked us already if that was their intention. After hours of debate, Commander Tay made his decision.
He would lead a small delegation to meet these impossible humans. The Horizon would remain at safe distance, ready to depart at the first sign of danger.
As their shuttle approached the meeting point, they saw the space station. It was beautiful, a graceful structure of curved metal and crystal that seemed to capture and reflect the light of both Earth and its moon. Their aesthetic sensibility is remarkable, Navigator Sue observed quietly. When they docked, the airlock opened to reveal Director Han waiting for them, flanked by two colleagues.
He bowed slightly in greeting. "Welcome to humanity's neighborhood," he said with a smile. "We have much to discuss."
Tay stepped forward, trying to hide his nervousness. Something about these humans felt ancient and knowing, despite their species' youth. As the airlock closed behind them, he couldn't shake the feeling that his people were no longer the advanced ones in this encounter. The meeting room inside the space station was simple but elegant. Large windows offered a breathtaking view of Earth and its moon. Commander Tay and his small team, Science Officer Hyun and Communications Specialist Dae, sat across from the human delegation.
Director Han smiled warmly.
"Tea," he offered, pouring a steaming amber liquid into delicate cups. "This plant has been cultivated on Earth for thousands of years."
Tay accepted the cup cautiously.
Their scans showed it was safe, but his hand still trembled slightly.
These humans should be primitive.
They should be struggling with basic technology, not hosting alien visitors in an orbital station. "I understand your confusion," Director Han said, as if reading his thoughts. "Your species visited Earth when our ancestors were barely using stone tools. By all normal evolutionary timelines, we should still be developing early agriculture.
Yet here you are," Hyun replied, unable to hide his scientific curiosity.
"Yes," Han nodded.
"We evolved differently."
The central table illuminated, displaying a holographic timeline of human development.
It showed their journey from cave-dwelling primates to space explorers in a mere blink of evolutionary time.
"It started slowly," Han explained. "But something happened to our brains, they grew more complex, more connected. We developed language, art, abstract thinking. Once we began recording knowledge, passing it between generations, our progress accelerated."
The timeline showed wars, plagues, environmental disasters, but after each catastrophe, humans emerged stronger, more unified, more advanced.
"We've known about your species for centuries," Han continued casually.
"We found your observation markers when we first reached the moon." "That's not possible," Hyun protested, setting down his tea.
"Those markers were quantum-locked and phase-shifted.
The technology to detect them is far beyond what any young species should possess."
"Yes," Han nodded. "It took us about 200 years to figure out how they worked. But once we did, we learned quite a lot about you."
Dae leaned forward. "Are you saying you've been studying us?"
"Just as you studied us," Han replied with a slight smile.
"Fair exchange, wouldn't you say?"
The hologram shifted to show images of their own homeworld, detailed maps of their cities, their orbital stations, even their military installations. Tay felt a cold knot of fear in his stomach.
How had the humans obtained this information?
"We developed long-range observation technology about 3 centuries ago," Han explained, noting their shock.
"You weren't difficult to find once we knew what to look for."
"That's why you remained hidden," Tay realized.
"You knew we were watching."
"Partly," Han agreed.
"We also observed other visitors. 17 different species have studied Earth without revealing themselves. We watched and learned from all of them." The human second delegate, a woman introduced as Scientist Min, stepped forward.
"We also detected the communications network linking the spacefaring civilizations."
"Your Galactic Council's transmissions aren't as secure as you believe." Tay exchanged alarmed glances with his team.
The Galactic Council was the highest governing body among the known species. Its very existence was supposed to be hidden from developing worlds.
"How much do you know?"
Tay asked quietly.
"About the Council? The Treaty of Rigel? The Proxima conflict?" Han shrugged.
Enough to understand our place in the greater community and why we needed to develop our own path. Director Han raised his hand, and the laws of physics seemed to bend around his fingers. The tea in his cup levitated, separating into its component molecules, then reformed without spilling a drop. What you're seeing isn't magic, Han explained. It's the result of our understanding of quantum manipulation at the subatomic level. We've learned to interact with matter directly. That's not possible, Hyun whispered, his scientific mind refusing to accept what his eyes witnessed. Many things we've accomplished were once thought impossible, Min said gently. We evolved differently than expected. Our neural connections developed unique patterns. We can process information faster, see connections others miss. And this is just the beginning, Han added. The children born in the last century have capabilities that even we don't fully understand yet. The third human delegate, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. We've been waiting for this meeting for generations, said Military Commander Beck. Because we need to talk about what's coming. What's coming? Tay asked, feeling increasingly uneasy. Han's expression grew solemn. Something ancient. Something that has destroyed galactic civilizations before. We detected signals from the galactic core 50 years ago, signals your scientists haven't recognized yet. The hologram shifted to show a vast darkness spreading slowly from the center of the galaxy, consuming stars as it moved. This is why we developed so quickly, Han said quietly. Our evolution wasn't random. It was a response to an existential threat none of us fully understands, but that we must face together. Tay felt the blood drain from his face. The humans hadn't just evolved beyond expectations, they had evolved into something new. Something terrifying. Something that might be the galaxy's only hope. The day after their shocking meeting, Director Han invited Commander Tay and his team to tour the solar system. They boarded a sleek human vessel called the Starlight. Unlike the utilitarian design of the Horizon, this ship featured curved lines in comfortable spaces that somehow felt both advanced and welcoming. We'll start with Mercury, Engineer Jean said as she guided them to the observation deck. She was younger than Han, with bright eyes that sparkled with enthusiasm. It's our primary energy collection facility now. The ship moved at incredible speed, covering the vast distance in mere hours. As they approached the innermost planet, Tay gasped. Mercury's surface was covered with countless mirror-like structures, all angled to capture the intense solar radiation. We use quantum transmission to send the energy wherever it's needed in the system, Jean explained. This single facility powers everything from Earth to the outer colonies. How many humans are there now? Science Officer Hyun asked. About 15 billion on Earth, Jean replied. Another 3 billion on Mars, 1 billion on the Moon, and perhaps 500 million spread across other settlements and stations. The tour continued to Venus, where massive atmospheric processors floated in the planet's thick clouds. Terraforming, Jean explained. It will take another century, but we're converting Venus into a habitable world. Tay watched in silence as they approached Mars. The red planet was dotted with domed cities and vast underground complexes. Green patches showed where terraforming had already succeeded, creating areas where humans could walk freely under the open sky. We've sent ships to 17 nearby star systems, Jean said as they visited Earth's orbital shipyard. Massive vessels were under construction, each larger than anything Tay's people had ever built. The first colonies are already self-sufficient. Why expand so quickly? Day asked. Most species spend thousands of years developing their home system before reaching to the stars. Jin's smile faded slightly. We don't have thousands of years. The threat from the galactic core is real, and it's approaching faster than we initially calculated. Later, they visited a research station in Earth orbit. There, they met Chief Scientist Bay, who showed them historical records of human development. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times, Bay admitted, displaying images of ancient wars and environmental disasters. But each crisis forced us to grow, to find new solutions, to become more than we were. The records also showed the humans had detected and quietly observed 12 different alien visitations without ever revealing themselves. They had recordings of ships from various species, including Tay's own, studying Earth over the centuries.
Why remain hidden for so long? Tay asked. We needed time, Jean answered simply. To understand our place in the universe. To develop our own path without outside influence.
The final stop on their tour was perhaps the most unsettling. They visited a school on the moon where human children learned and played. These weren't ordinary children by any standard. Tay watched as young students casually solved computational problems that would challenge the most brilliant minds among his people. A small boy, perhaps 10 years old, approached Tay with curious eyes. You're from the Orion Arm, near the Blue Dwarf system, the child said matter-of-factly.
Yes, Tay confirmed, surprised. How did you know?
The boy smiled and didn't speak aloud, but suddenly Tay understood a mathematical concept he had never encountered before. The knowledge simply appeared in his mind, complete and clear. He stepped back, startled. Our children are different, Jean explained gently, noticing his reaction. The neural adaptations that began in our species millennia ago have accelerated in recent generations. They perceive reality differently than we do.
What are they becoming?
Day whispered.
We don't know, Jean admitted.
But they may be our best hope against what's coming. As they prepared to return to the horizon, Commander Tay gazed out at Earth, the beautiful blue world that had produced these incredible beings. In 500,000 years, they had evolved from simple tool users to a civilization that could reshape planets and reach between stars.
We've made mistakes, Director Han said, joining him at the viewport. Terrible mistakes sometimes.
We've hurt each other and our world.
But we learned, we adapted, we grew. And now?
Tay asked. Now we need allies, Han replied simply.
What's coming from the core isn't just a threat to humanity. It's a threat to all life in the galaxy.
Tay nodded slowly, understanding the unspoken request. His people had considered themselves advanced, enlightened explorers, studying primitive worlds from a position of superiority. Now, facing these evolved humans, he realized how much they had to learn. And how much they needed each other to face the darkness approaching from the heart of the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy.
Delegates from 23 spacefaring civilizations had gathered for an emergency session.
Commander Tay stood at the central podium, facing the supreme leaders of the known galaxy. The report you've submitted is deeply troubling, Council Member G said. His species came from a water world, and his translucent skin rippled with concern.
These humans have advanced far beyond natural evolutionary patterns. Tay nodded. Their development defies all our scientific understanding.
In 500,000 years, they've gone from primitive tool users to a civilization capable of reshaping planets. The chamber filled with worried murmurs.
Several delegates consulted data tablets, reviewing the detailed observations Tay's crew had collected.
They could be a threat to the entire galactic order, Council Member G continued. No species should advance this rapidly.
It upsets the balance we've maintained for millennia.
Perhaps, Tay agreed.
But there's something else you need to know.
He activated the main display, and Director Han's face appeared on the giant screen. The human looked calm and composed, addressing the council directly.
Greetings, esteemed leaders, Han said. We understand your concerns. In your position, we would feel the same. But we've requested this audience because there's something far more important than our unusual evolution.
The display changed to show deep space images, stars going dark near the galactic core, a spreading shadow that seemed to consume light itself. We detected these signals 50 years ago, Han explained.
Something ancient is awakening there. Something that has destroyed galactic civilizations before.
We've been preparing not just for ourselves, but for all sentient life.
The council chamber fell silent as the images continued.
Data scrolled alongside the visuals, showing analysis beyond anything their scientists had compiled. How could they detect this when our combined observatories did not? Asked the archivist, the oldest member of the council. Their perception is different, Tay explained. Their neural structure has evolved unique pathways that allow them to see patterns we miss. Director Han continued, we believe this entity hibernates for millions of years, then awakens to feed on advanced civilizations. Your historical records mention the mysterious disappearance of the first ones, who vanished at the height of their power. We believe they faced this same threat. The council erupted in debate.
Some argued for immediate action, others for caution. A few suggested containing the humans themselves as a potential threat.
Tay raised his hand for silence.
There's one more thing you need to see. He played the final recording from their visit to Earth. The screen showed a demonstration of Earth's planetary defense system.
At a command from Military Commander Beck, a small fleet of unmanned ships surrounded a distant asteroid. Energy fields activated, and within seconds, the massive rock simply ceased to exist, converted to pure energy without explosion or debris. They developed this technology not to conquer, Tay explained, but to defend. They've been quietly preparing to face this ancient threat while we remained unaware of its existence.
Council member G shook his head. How can we trust them?
They could use this power against us. They've had that ability for centuries, Tay replied simply. They've known about all our worlds, our defenses, our weaknesses. If conquest was their goal, they could have achieved it long ago. The debate continued through the night, with opinions sharply divided.
Some saw the humans as potential saviors, others as an unpredictable threat.
By morning, no consensus had been reached.
Director Han requested a final audience.
On the screen, he stood beside a young human girl, perhaps 8 years old.
This is Min, Han introduced her. She represents our future. Tell them what you see, Min.
The child looked directly at the council, her eyes somehow seeing across the vast distance of space. The darkness is hungry, she said in a clear voice.
It's waking up faster now.
We have maybe 20 years before it begins moving toward the outer arms. She raised her small hand, and suddenly every member of the council felt a gentle presence in their minds, not invasive, but connecting, sharing. For a brief moment, they saw what she saw, the pattern of the threat, its hunger, its ancient intelligence. We can face it together, Min said simply.
Or separately, we all fall.
When the connection ended, the council sat in stunned silence. Finally, the archivist spoke. In 10,000 years on this council, I have never encountered anything like this. These humans are indeed terrifying, not because they wish us harm, but because they have evolved to face something that terrifies even them. 3 days later, Commander Tay stood beside Director Han as representatives from the council arrived on Earth to sign the first interspecies alliance treaty. As they watched the delegates approach, Han smiled. Your ancestors found primitive apes using stone tools, he said quietly. We've been waiting 500,000 years to show you what those apes became. The treaty was signed that day, uniting the galaxy against the ancient darkness approaching from its heart.